It's 6 p.m. on July 15th, 2025. I call the Ross Township Board regular meeting to order. We will be rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask that everybody remains standing. I would like to have a moment of silence for our family and the victim that drowned on the 4th of July, and then we will sit down and begin our attendance thereafter. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, you may proceed with the attendance, and I'd like to ask everybody to put your microphones down so we can all be heard on the YouTube recording this evening.
Supervisor Hutchings.
Here.
Clerk Stage, here. Treasurer Wiersma.
Here.
Trustee Langshaw. Trustee Beeks.
Here.
Trustee Harmon.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Attorney Thal is present.
Thank you. I'd be seeking an approval of the agenda, but I want to make a flip-flop. Our police chief needs to do some business today, so I'd like to move him up from various committee reports up to speaking just before our special guest, Consumers Energy.
I move that the agenda be approved as amended.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving forward to the consent agenda, I would be seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion with support to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Police Chief Martin Brown, the podium is yours, sir.
Good evening, all. As you can see,
Can you make sure the microphone is up high? Thank you, sir.
as you can see, the stats for June of this year are pretty standard. Nothing, no great variance in June. So that's fairly normal. I wanted to touch briefly on the events that happened July 4th so that you as a governmental body can understand what happens in that particular case. There was a young lady who did drown on the west side of Gull Lake. We received the call around 3:17 p.m. I arrived within approximately 5 minutes, followed by Life Care and other units. When I arrived, there was a doctor and a nurse already attending to the child. They did what they were trained to do, and the child was transported to the hospital, but subsequently passed a couple days later. Currently, so you understand, the state law requires an investigation to be done primarily by the medical examiner for Kalamazoo County and supported by the police agency. And we are Ross Township is the lead police agency on this, and we are working through the details. Unfortunately, those don't happen fast, so the investigation is currently still ongoing. But I hope to have it wrapped up in the next week or so. And unfortunately, we're going to have a very tragic loss in our community. Are there any questions that you folks might have for me that I could answer at this time? I'll try.
Just a couple questions I think for clarification. So we hear a lot about, the priority of calls that happen. How would you describe the the call, that, what type of call was it that came out?
That was it was a primary medical call, and the primary medical responders for Kalamazoo County are fire and EMS. Police departments are not primary medical responders, first responders. But when it involves a child, everybody comes, you know.
So this is not a case where dispatch looks to see, hey, it's Ross. I mean, just everybody responds. So it goes out to everybody to get there.
Yeah, the paramedics are dispatched, the fire department is dispatched. Normally, the police department is not. In this particular case, because it does involve a child, everybody, and, you know, my primary responsibility is not the medical part, but the investigative part. But, you know, when it's a child, you move heaven and earth
Right.
to get that child any assistance you can get.
You know, my heart goes out to the family and to everybody involved, and even to the first responders, because those that were there, it's a tragedy, and it hits home with everybody. And so I just want to thank all the first responders and you know, and the speed at which people got there. And while it was not the outcome anybody would want, we're just so thankful that we continue to knit together a coverage plan that allows within minutes. I mean, we're not sitting here talking about 10 minutes for people to get there, which we would all think is a good time. I mean, we're talking, you know, racing across the lake at full speed to get there and arriving in less than 5 minutes. We're talking about, you know, our intergovernmental agreement there within like 3 minutes. Our fire department people that care enough that they keep equipment in their own vehicles so they can show up immediately. You know, they don't have to come and get equipment. They can go straight there with equipment they need. So I just want to thank you and thank all the other first responders that did everything they could.
Yeah, and the first responders, as so happens, Mitch is here. They held a critical incident debrief for those first responders, dispatch, all the way from dispatchers to firefighters to anyone that needed help dealing with this tragedy. So, any other questions, folks? Like I said, hopefully in the next week, I should have this completed with the medical examiner's office, and, you know, but as it stands right now, we're just dealing with a very tragic incident.
Appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Good night.
Next up, Derek Knopf from Consumers Energy. Welcome to Ross Township. I'm going to move my thumb drive and you can put yours in.
Derek, at the end of your presentation, do you have a business card?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Derek Knopf. I handle community affairs, local government affairs for Consumers Energy here in Southwest Michigan. So live just on the other side of town, over in Texas Township, work out of Kalamazoo. So here to talk to you a little bit about some power outages and some projects we have to alleviate this particular area. So the supervisor brought to my attention, and I know it's an area that's frankly been on our radar for a number of years. And I know that probably the fix and the relief can't come soon enough, but I hope that the summary and the bottom line for tonight is that, yes, it's on our radar. Yes, we're aware that there's been this particular area has suffered from some outages, and that we have a plan to fix it. that we're in the midst of right now. So the particular area in question here, and I know it's a little tough to see on the map, but the sort of north-south in the middle of that image is 37th Street. And then right about midway down there, you can see Yorkshire, where it goes off to the east. So that's kind of the area in question where there's been a number of outages. And I'll go through the details here. So to kind of skip down to that, I guess would be the bottom bullet there. When we looked at this particular area, this zone, it's averaged over the past probably 4 to 5 years. It's had 4 to 5 outages per year in that zone. So like what we typically like to see, or what be a standard obviously, is 0, but sort of our threshold of where we start to really look at a zone is when it has 2 or more outages a year, really. So we already have been, it's been on our radar in that area. What we did was in 2023 is we went out and we did a full trim, a full clearing of that area in terms of trees that could potentially be hazardous, which is our standard plan that we would normally do. And usually there's a drastic reduction in outages once we go out and clear an area. But in this case, there wasn't. And so the team went back and said, if you drive obviously down that area, I know most of us have, it's very heavily wooded, right? And so the plan is to go above and beyond that, and really, this is kind of our Cadillac, if you will, of plans in terms of a fix here, is actually undergrounding the lines in that area. So you can see that kind of if you look off to the left there, there's that the 2025 plan. If you look in that box, that little green line, that is what we call deep right-of-way. So instead of the lines being right out along the road like you would typically see, those lines go very deep off the right-of-way. Those lines are tougher to get to and access and work on, and obviously it's very heavily wooded. So in this case, the plan is here in 2025 is to begin and underground that line, that in that box right there. If you say, okay, well, we cut them in 2023, now it's 2025, what were we doing? I've worked on a few of these undergrounding projects, and the most time-consuming piece of it is getting the easements, right? We have to go to everybody along that route, and we have to get easement documents so that we can still go underground through that area. And so that typically is pretty time-consuming process to track everybody down and get that documentation. But the good news is we've got that all now, and we're moving ahead still here in 2025 to get that first section undergrounded. Then the next plan, so that's a 0.4 mile.
Quick question on that. I would have thought that the easement that covers the current lines would also cover going underground. Are you not in the same line, or is it just a different easement?
It could be both, and usually, some of these easements are 100 years old, right? And so then we go through and we update those easements to be current with current language. And we also, again, if it is in even a slightly different spot, then we're gonna have to go in and get new easement language. Yeah. Yep. So this year it's that 0.41 miles. Then the plan would be next year to continue that. So if you look, there's kind of those 2 yellow cutouts there in that 2026 plan. The 2025 plan is the little section in between those. So you can see there's a much more extensive section going up and down that 27th Street, where we are planning to underground the rest of that in 2026. So you can see the cost there. Again, undergrounding, we don't do it everywhere, frankly. It is an investment that we're making here to try to make sure that those folks don't have the outages that they've had.
But how does that investment compare to the upgrade of the current line? Is it really, when you look at what your cost would be over the next 5 years with above ground, and compared to this investment going underground.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to that, what we kind of first did, right? We looked at that line first and said, okay, let's try tree trimming. Let's try some upgrades like poles and cross arms and fuses like we would normally do. And then we just saw that that was just not adequate in this area with being how heavily wooded it was. So that was when we made the decision to do the undergrounding. So if we went back again and tried to do kind of the same maintenance that we did over the past few years, it just probably wouldn't. You probably would still have outages like you've been.
No, I get that. We talk a lot about that it's the cost of
Yep.
going underground, and I'm actually curious if the cost is actually, over a 10-year period, you're actually saving money by going underground, bigger upfront investment, but you're
Yeah.
gonna get a payback because you're not gonna be spending the time
On the tree cutting.
on the
and
tree
yep.
cutting, the repairs, labor that goes in during storms and.
Yeah, that's the case, and you're gonna have better, when there is a storm, you're probably not gonna be dispatching crews out to fix this area as frequently, right? Because you're hopefully gonna have a lot better reliability in that area. So yeah, you're right. Yep. Then the other piece of this that we're gonna do actually is just for kind of a temporary stopgap for this year. There's a portion of those customers that you can see here. We're gonna take those and actually transfer them. This is kind of like the last mile, like end of a circuit. And we're gonna actually transfer them to a more reliable circuit until that undergrounding work is complete. So that should be more of a like quicker fix than that 2026 plan when we complete it. And then obviously in 2026, they would be switched back to this circuit. It's Yorkville Bayview, I think is what the circuit is called, so. Then just really quickly outside of that area, I just want to kind of let you know, every 2 years, our engineers drive these lines and they inspect them. So this is kind of outside of that immediate area, just a bigger snapshot of some of the township here, but 21 locations they identified, 14 of those are pole replacements, 4 fuse locations, and then pole top replacements. So those are underway. Either were completed in 2024, a lot of them, or they're completing them now here in this first half of 2025. And then finally, just also, again, I felt since I was here, just to kind of give you a snapshot of the township, kind of a bigger picture here. You can see, and I know it's a little hard to see there, but 2026, 2027, there are a number of projects where we'll be doing that same idea where either it's tree trimming, replacing fuses, replacing poles, but these are all slated project areas to upgrade the reliability in the township.
Will you be looking at undergrounding in these areas?
So far, I don't think any of these here are going to be undergrounded. If you look on that, obviously that left side there, the west side, that's that 27th Street where we are going to be doing the undergrounding, but those other ones, I don't believe. any
We're just kind
those
of
are
partial to our
slated for.
trees out here in Ross
Yeah,
Township.
yeah, I understand. I think that's it. Nope.
So-
I thought I had
On that, quick question, what's the difference between a solid blue line and a dotted blue line, or a solid red line and a dotted red line on that graph, or on that
Those
picture?
are just the different circuits. Those are just the different circuits. So basically, that's just denoting different electrical circuits.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So Derek, you and I had some conversation along with Trustee White a couple weeks ago, and I had shared with you that we had a pole that was leaning at the corner of 37th and Yorkshire, and it's got a transformer on it. And then if you come into Yorkshire and you go over to another resident's property, he also has a transformer, but they've revisited his property and spliced many times. Were you able to get out there and verify that? And is that a part of a longer, can it wait? Or is this going to be something that's going to be cleaned up prior to these changes?
I think that's something that would be cleaned up probably with these changes.
Okay.
But no, I will have, or get a hold of one of our field leaders to see if they can go take a look at that.
I'd appreciate
I haven't had
that.
a chance to do that yet, and I apologize, just
No, you're busy. It's
yeah,
okay.
getting back from vacation just Monday, so I will catch up on that and see if we can have somebody go take a look at it.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
I also wanted to share this. You had asked about outage credits.
Yeah.
You know, for the folks that were affected. And so this is on our website, if you, Consumers Energy outage credits, if you want to be able to see this a little more clearly. But basically, yeah, we do have a system and a standard, and it's automatic. If for some reason you feel like you were supposed to be one of the, qualified in one of these buckets for a credit, and didn't receive it, feel free to give us a call. But basically, it's, if you have 6 or more outages in a year, if you have outages that last over 96 hours, there's sort of storm and non-storm outages there. But basically, it's if you hit any of those criteria, you get like a base credit of $40, and then you get $40 for every 24 hours after that if you are still without power. So just to give you an idea, and again, that's all online. So,
I appreciate this.
Yep.
And for purposes of, the reason why I wanted you to come here is, one, I wanted the board to understand that this undergrounding isn't something that you do a lot of the time. It's really unique, and it's going to be something that involves a primary road in Ross Township. So the rest of the township needs to know as well. But I shared with you that the day that we did lose power and I dropped the windows, and you can listen on 37th Street and you can tell who's got generators. And not any, a few. It was definitely rare to hear one running. So my curiosity was, do you reach out and give the credit, or does the resident have to reach out and ask for the credit?
it should be automatic because we've got,
Okay.
we have our smart meters now, and we know exactly like who's been out and for how long.
Okay,
But again, they say like if it doesn't show up on those first couple of bills, like feel free to give them a call if, and they can take a look at it.
okay.
Yep.
So individuals that are on 37th Street, where we have discussed today, if they didn't see a credit, they need to reach out and ask for a credit.
Yeah, yeah. I would
Okay,
have them do
to
that.
verify that. Thank you. And then,
Qualify, yeah.
thank you. And then can you leave your PowerPoint with the clerk so we could attach it with, or email it to me, so we could attach it with our minutes for
Yep.
tonight?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, I turn it over to the board. Does the board have any questions?
The transfer of circuits you mentioned,
Yeah.
that takes place this year, right?
Yep.
How will that affect the residents in that area?
They shouldn't really notice. I mean, if there's an outage, it'd be a very brief outage just to literally switch those over, but there shouldn't be an extensive outage in order to do that.
Will they be some type of a heads-up warning?
Yeah,
Or?
when we do what we call a planned outage, we always send a postcard to every resident that's part of that and let them know that there'll be a planned outage.
And my next question, you talked as if burying it seemed way more costly than overhead lines. Obviously, you know way more about that than I do, but when you consider power poles and insulators and everything that goes into that and the extensive maintenance on it, I guess that puzzles me a little bit. I mean, I know every house now gets underground wire to the house. There's never any overheads anymore. Farmers have all their wires buried to their center pivots in their fields or whatever it is. What makes it so much more expensive, and is it truly more expensive, and is it just the initial installation, or is it?
It's really just the initial installation. It's not over time. I wouldn't say it's necessarily more expensive. It's really just that initial construction. Again, I mentioned easements, right? Like we're compensating people typically for crossing a piece of property or that kind of a thing. So, and then just the time, like our land agents are out there having to, to deal with all those folks. The construction piece of it, right? Having to, typically it's not as much trenching these days. They have boring machines. And actually, a lot of the reason we have a pilot right now where we're doing a lot more undergrounding, because the cost has come down significantly with the horizontal boring machines. And so we did 10 miles last year outside of this program, just part of a pilot program of kind of those last mile circuits. And we plan to do more. where we're trying to kind of prove out, like, this cost has actually gone down quite a bit, and we want to keep doing more of those circuits underground. Yeah.
Anyone else? Derek, thank you for coming to Ross Township tonight and for the information. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. You want to come get your thumb drive? Thanks again.
Thanks. Yep.
We have a lot of power outages. Yours was out longer than ours was this time.
I feel like Vanna.
Give me an A.
Flipping the letters over. Have a good night, Derek. Next up, at 6:27 PM, we were entering citizen comment period. For citizen comment, we're asking that you please speak up. The meeting is being recorded for YouTube. We would appreciate if you clearly state and spell your last name for the minutes. Comments are strictly limited to 3 minutes. Citizen comment is designed for one-way commentary to address the board. All citizens providing comments should address their remarks to the supervisor, the board chair, who may respond to provide brief factual information. Board members will refrain from speaking during citizen comment. If citizens need specific assistance, please contact Ross Township during business hours for additional guidance or information. Who would like to start us off with public comment tonight? Nobody, okay. Clerk, we are closing public comment. 6:28 PM. We are moving into various committee reports. We are well represented by Life Care Ambulance tonight. Would you like to lead us off? Thank you.
Does everyone have a copy of the sheets?
Yep,
that
and you
I
might want to
shared?
tip that down so we can hear you. Thank you.
I don't want it to scream.
Hopefully it won't scream at you.
Yeah, it did last time. I'll do my best. Brian Walls, Vice President of Life Care. We would also like to, on behalf of Life Care, share our sympathies and condolences to the family and the community for our tragic loss. On to the report. In front of you, the first page I'd like to go over is the Ross Township report for June 2025. At the top, you'll have our responses for the month of June. Priority 1 responses, 20 total, 16 were transported, 4 were canceled. Only 1 was transported with red lights and sirens, and we had an average response time to Priority 1 calls this month for 12 minutes and 59 seconds. Priority 3, which is non-emergency responses, we had 16 total, 13 were transported, 3 were canceled, no lights and sirens transports, and we had an average response time to those calls for 19 minutes and 12 seconds. Mutual aid, we received from Life EMS 3 calls from mutual aid, and we gave or assisted Life EMS in 4. Destinations, again, you can see our total calls, average transport time, and the average total time it takes for the call for between Borges, Bronson, Kalamazoo, and Bronch and Battle Creek. Battle Creek was the majority of this month's calls, with 41% of our transports going to that facility. Staffing for this month, our 3912, our evening car was staffed 100%, and our day car 3911 was staffed 72% due to call-offs. Quality metrics on the backside. For the month of June, which is highlighted there in the orange, we were at 100% for trauma center destinations. We were 100% for stroke assessments, 100% for end-tidal CO2. That's the detection of correct placement of our airway when we do emergency airways. Aspirin administration, we were around 80%. This is actually a metric that's no longer measured, so we'll be removing this one. The focus is on chest pain and monitors being placed on within 10 minutes, which we were also 100% for this month. Lights and sirens usage during transports, again, we were below our standard of 5%. We were at 2%. Last month was 1.7%. And then our customer satisfaction went up by 1% for June, 94%, 93% for last month. On the second page is our Ross Township Communications Report, our log. In yellow, I highlighted changes from the previous month. So the first one was April, when it was reported. It's resolved, substantiated. was resolved today, actually. Life Care set monthly dates with Ross Augusta Fire Department going forward, tentatively set for right before this meeting at 5:30. The next one was reported in July, customer service. It was not substantiated. I didn't really have I might just delete that section for some of these. It was just the inquiry from this board on that call. So there was no issues reported on behalf of Life Care's response or care. And then in July 9th, this is just a process improvement, so it's not really substantiated. It's not a concern or complaint, but it is tied to the supplies. So Mitch behind me here was nice enough to, he's our team leader as well, liaison to the other firefighters as well. He created a spreadsheet now with metrics on it that it'll alert us when certain of the supplies are going to expire, so that we can go ahead and make those changes and exchange them so that we can use them first so they're not expiring. That's all I have for my report. You guys have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next up for committee reports.
You want my name?
We know who you are.
I just wondered. I just want to make sure. So as you can see, we're still up on calls for June. So far, about every month so far has been a increase in run numbers. So last year we had 44 for June. This month or June we had 49. Calls by area: Ross Township 37 of the calls were in Ross Township, Village of Augusta 7, and out of Township. So we went to Richland on 1, 2, 3 for possible apartment fire, possible structure fire, and garage fire. Assisted Galesburg on G Avenue and M96, and then we went to the rec area for a Med 1 call. We did receive from Richland when we had the garbage truck and which I didn't know that, but their protocol is to find a parking lot and just dump their load. So when they showed up, I told them if he thought that was a good spot, and I said it would have been a lot better spot if it was about a mile down the road. So in Richland, but so we dumped it out. I had Richland come with their tanker, and they came and cleaned everything up in the parking lot too at the church. So we did our retirement party for David Shirley and the top 3 responders. So Josh Goss was number 3, Isaac Shoemaker was number 2, and Michael King was number 1. So in regards to our call on 4th of July, so you asked how it gets paged out. So what happens is the sheriff's departments or whatever will hear that, and so we had the sheriff's department there, we had Martin there, we had the Richland officer there, we had a state police officer there, we had Life Care was there. But at any rate, what happens is they don't page everybody out for the whole Kalamazoo County for that call. They still just page Ross Township. I happened to be in Portage and was on the phone to my guys that were responding. And I only saw that I had a couple guys, so I automatically had Richland dispatched. So Richland could be there too. So but at any rate, even for the police officers, if they didn't have anybody else available, it's kind of what's available and what's not. But so not everybody is going to just, get called and they come. So like other departments, I listen to some of it on my pager. So if I'm close, I respond to Richland calls. They respond to my calls. I could care less. I don't care who responds. If I'm there first, that's fine. If they're for my calls first, I don't have a problem with that. But so at any rate, I tried to, on any of my calls, I tried to keep track on our active and that kind of stuff and make sure see who is in my command officers that are there. So make sure I have a command officer that's gonna be there. I didn't at that time. Rob showed up a little bit. He got there before I did, but, so we try to, I try to do that. I don't know if I think Jake does a pretty good job of keeping track. I don't know if the other guys, Brandon and Rob, if it's something else like that, I'm not positive. I do have to kind of check on that to make sure that they're keeping track of everything when, especially when we're shorthanded, and we were, I mean, unfortunately, I only had two people that were immediate responders, one from Augusta, one from the other side of the lake. But unfortunately, I mean, it's an incident that I don't think would have made much difference if we would have been sitting right there at their house, probably. I mean, because everybody did everything that they could. I mean, and so unfortunately, I did talk to the family. I went back after we were done and took since I have a chaplain, I took his card and told them that they were to get a hold of him if anybody wanted. And they're pretty close, and they have a pretty good church family anyway, so they were with that part of it. But I did go back after everybody was gone. Then the family was at the hospital, but the grandparents weren't. So I mean, unfortunately, everything. I don't think we could have had a better outcome than what it was. Unfortunately, I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it was. But I don't think. As far as what they've done, Mitch has gone through all of our equipment. So all of our equipment is being. We have everything that we need, and they have everything in stock now for some of the equipment that they didn't have. They do have all the equipment that we need now, so there's no issue with. What's that? Yeah, you weren't kidding. So that one night we had a full arrest, and the ambulance had just gotten back from another full arrest. So, I mean, so they had 2 full arrests in half an hour. So, but
Those kind of messages just fill me with joy. So
well,
I'm
it ain't
glad
right. I mean, so
to see
they've-
it's working
and
better.
Mitch is still. I've made it clear to him that he's more than welcome to go through my trucks, and if he sees stuff that is getting ready to expire in the next month or two, he'll pull it out, swap it out. So,
Yeah.
because most of the time we don't have to use it that often. I mean, like I told Mr. Klein one day when I said we didn't have very many calls, and we've had about 5 or 6 full arrests here in the last month and a half. So. Any other questions? No. Okay.
Thank you.
We didn't have a fire board meeting, but we will have one in August.
Okay. Do you have a date for that? So fire board meeting will be the 2nd Thursday of August.
Usually the second Thursday of the month when we have it.
The 8th, August
August
8th. Thank you, Amanda. Perfect. Thank you. Mary Carroll? Are you the cemetery committee? Do you want to come up here and talk? I know. It's important. Can you reach that? Can you pull that microphone down? There you go.
Well, I didn't write anything out, and so it's going to be off from the top of my head. But recently, I went through, and we're getting full in Yorkville. There's nothing on top. Down below, we probably have under 20 graves available. I know there's been talk about, I'm going to call them niches. That's not the appropriate name for them, but I have a hard time pronouncing it and remembering what it is. I went with Dave from Turfworks one day this week, and we looked at the lower level to see if it was even feasible to put in a section of the hill for niches, and there isn't. Because of the slope of the hill, because of the trees and being disturbed. Getting equipment in there, you're going to drive over graves. And there would be some that would be very upset if heavy equipment. And then, as he said, Mother Nature always wins. And regardless of how much you put in as far as supports to keep that from eroding and everything, it's just not feasible. So the board needs to consider going to Day Cemetery. There's several spaces there available. There are spaces available in Ross Center. Probably in looking at Day Cemetery, we would want to go along the south side. I did not look up today. I know the Greers own part of it and also part of the Bostwicks. Barb. Her husband's passed away. Ken and Barb. They own to the east. Without looking at the plat map, I'm not sure who it is that owns the south. I would guess that it would be the Greer family. In talking with Christina and Michael, that seems like the most logical place. But we would need to buy some property to the south. Because if you've been to Day Cemetery, we have the road that goes around, then a very short area, and we have the trees, and that's the end of our property. So we definitely would have to look into purchasing something there in order to put one up. The other thing I said to Diana today, okay, you have the purchase of the land, then you have all the excavating and everything that is involved. And with the prices today, is it even going to be feasible? Because you're going to have to recoup your expenses in some way. And will people be willing to pay for a niche more than what they would for a gravesite? But those are just some of the things that you need to look at. Yorkville, looking at it from a landscape, from erosion, that's not possible. Just now, a thought that went through my mind is that if you did anything at Yorkville, it would have to be on the upper level on the west side. But there again, you would have to purchase property, and I don't know if I think that would be Yorkville Cemetery and possibly some of Doug's property. So I think you need, if you consider doing niches, why I think your Day Cemetery is about the best. The other thing that we discussed today, and that was how high do you go? If you go much more than a 6 or an 8 foot, why then you're going to have to buy equipment, some type of a highboy to get them up. As I said, my brother in Florida is on the 14th floor. And so you've got to have something to get to that height. A smaller one, as she was saying, where Scott's parents are buried, he could do a 2-step ladder.
Plus he's tall. Plus he's tall.
Plus he's
Yeah.
tall, and he could reach to put his parents' ashes in there. So there's a lot to consider before, you just don't go out and say, okay, you hire this person or this firm. We haven't taken it. I have not taken it any further to I do have some information on it, but I think the best thing, because that cemetery across from the airport in Battle Creek has one, and I would want to go, or somebody would go with me, to sit and talk with them about it. I know Lynn is very familiar with that because she spoke about it before. But that's the preliminary.
Thank you. You get an A on your assignment. You did a fantastic job. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I mean, if it works out, I'll be out there this Thursday. We've got a Memorial Park Cemetery Board meeting from noon to 1. So if anybody wants to come out, say at 1 o'clock, I can show you the columbariums that we have.
Thank you.
We've got actually 3 different ones. Two are the octagonal shaped ones, and the ones called the Garden of the Cross, because it's set as a cross design.
And there again, I think that's where you need to begin, is to what type you want, and then go from there as to how much land you would need to purchase from areas.
For purposes of you being here today, I think it's important that everybody knows that Yorkville is just full. Yorkville is just full. And so,
There's a few, like I say, but it's under 20
yep,
in the lower part.
yep. And we talked today, we do have some people that are watching right now. We talked today, Yorkville below has ground headstones into the earth, so flat. And it's very important if we have listeners or you have people that you know are buried there, we can't have flags and flower pots and things because it impedes the mowing. And so Mary Carroll is going to be sending out a reminder notice to individuals that are resting there that if they have personal effects that are in the ground on that lower level, they need to pick up their personal property. And they can dress it for the holiday, but that needs to go back home because if we're paying our mowing people, and we need to make sure their personal effects are not in that lower ground.
For Memorial Day, that is an exception.
Memorial Day and Labor Day. Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. And Lynn, I appreciate your invitation. So just to clarify, it's this Thursday, noon to 1 at Memorial Park Cemetery in Battle Creek. Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to chat about anything else?
Excuse me, I went to a clerk's meeting today, and we were updated that the state has started looking at new election equipment. There's been a lot of changes just recently. The Board of Elections has started to do reviews of polling places to make sure they're ADA compliant. So, and also I've already talked with Christine about this to make sure our website's ADA compliant. So they're in the process. We should be hearing things coming down pretty quick, probably starting around October. And they'll invite the clerks to go up and look at all the new equipment that they're proposing before they choose something. So they'll get input from us. That's it.
Bless you. Very good. Thanks for that update.
I would just, on the park, just because I get to spend a lot of time there this summer, I mean, I think it's going very well. I think our two, Molly and Macy are doing a phenomenal job with it. I think we got a good crew. I think the park shows well.
So you had some thoughts about some individuals that were coming in and paying, that you had some ideas, or that the
Well, I think we have
guests
I
had
don't know
ideas.
I don't know the number that we've lost because we can't do credit cards, and Man and I talked about that. I definitely think that should be a goal for next summer, to be in position to accept cards, and if we wanted to even pilot it at the very end of this season, if we're in position to do that. There's been several that have turned around, but I feel like the the pricing points we have, I think they're good because the park on 4th of July, I mean, we still filled up and, but it wasn't as bad as it was. So I think our pricing has helped manage the capacity issues, and people are able to come in and enjoy the park.
So how difficult is it, and I don't know if this is a question for the treasurer or for our attorney, how difficult is it? I mean, I know when I go to a restaurant, they hand me a checkout and I stick my phone in there and it's a Square device and I, can pay for my takeout. How difficult would it be to get credit cards going at the park gate?
It won't be. So I've already spoken with BSNA, who now has a program that they can take other payments besides taxes. So it's a matter of just setting it up with them. The only concern is my daughter worked at the park last year, so there's no Wi-Fi out there. There's no internet service out there. So I think we still might run into some problems with people getting enough service on their phones to make this a capable thing. But I am looking into the Square feature, just posting the Square or the
QR code?
QR code on the building so they can shoot it, pick their price, pay it, show their payment to the park attendant, and then be good to go. Like I said, the only concern I have at this point is the cell phone coverage out there is kind of terrible. So it was also my understanding that we didn't have, I didn't want to put any sort of machinery out there. We don't have Wi-Fi to cover machinery, and then we have kids that would be responsible for, the Square readers and things like that, which we didn't want to do as well. So I think that QR code option.
I think that's the best. When it comes to
Best bet.
the Boy Scouts selling Christmas trees in Richland, we just have a QR code there. They can walk up, they can scan it, and it's an honor system. They can pick the tree they want, pay it, and take the tree and go, because we don't staff it all the time.
Well,
If-
it is something we can integrate right with our BSNA
Yep.
program that we already have.
Yeah, so
At no additional cost to.
that's why
township.
if we want to pilot it, if we're ready at the end of this season, then we could maybe do it a little bit before we're
Yeah, I'm sure.
full
we-
on with next year. But I think it'd be great.
So how difficult, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I get that it's easy. So is it just, we already have the capability? We just need to
Correct.
get the
We just
QR
need to
code?
get it started with BSNA. So we give them our GL codes, which is what connects the money to our bank accounts and shows the revenue in our system. So it's something that will link directly from the QR code, just like the tax payment, directly into our bank account when they make that payment. And they'll get an immediate receipt from it.
So as a board, do we want to direct Amanda and Lynn to go the next step to bring us a QR code to do a presentation in the future? I like what you're saying. I know that Mary Carroll's had to go out there and make change. And do we want to move forward, or how's the board feel? So I make a motion to appoint Amanda and Lynn to move forward with working with BSNA and working with the QR code to give us the ability to pay using credit cards at Ross Township Park.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and support. Any further discussion?
I was under the impression that we already know it can be done. I think the motion should be, let's go ahead and do it. That's
Okay.
kind of what I'm thinking.
We can do dog licenses and stuff too, so I can set it up to take whatever payments that we have historically not been able to
Like it.
accept.
I like it.
So
So let's amend the motion to move forward and do dog licenses and park entry via the QR code, and Amanda's going to contact BSNA. We will move forward to have credit card payments at the Ross Township Park.
Mary, do you accept that?
Yes, I do.
amendment?
We have a motion and support with an amended motion. Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify. Amanda's going to do the work. I'll bring you coffee. I'll pick up.
perfect, perfect. I'll send you
I'll
my
be your
preference.
pilot person, testing it out.
Any further discussion?
The first question that comes to my mind is this just to present it, Or is this saying, yes, we're going to do it no matter what? And if so, I guess I'd be curious, what the extra cost is, or is it just built into the program with
There's
what we
not,
already
it's
have?
built right into the program. There will likely be, just like, with tax payments, 2.83% fee that's charged directly to the resident user of it. There's no cost to
Okay, thanks.
Good question. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None. Motion carries. Great job. Thank you.
Amanda, you mentioned the service out there is bad. Is that across all providers, or is it just your provider? Or do you
I
not
have
know?
no idea. I mean, I have Verizon, and I get terrible service at my house.
I do.
So I don't know. It's-
AT&T, and I was, when I was out there with my son, I had my laptop, I had my extra screen
All right.
going, and I was using my phone as a mobile hotspot. And I mean, I was on, so I mean, I only had like 2 bars, but I still was able to run off stuff.
Maybe it's Verizon.
Any further discussion? Okay, moving forward. Old business. Planning Commission work on decks, patios, and altering grades. We do have a ordinance that I will turn over to Rob Thal and Trustee Beeks to work through, and then we will discuss that ordinance that's before us tonight.
Let me start, Rob, and then you can give all the details. This was the ordinance that the board asked us to prioritize.
Hold on. There are copies of the ordinance over there if anybody would like to follow along. Go ahead, sorry.
And the planning commission was able to do that. We did have our public hearing on the matter. We made 2 additional changes, which are reflected in the documents you got yesterday. I know that I've been very, I'll say 100% complete in terms of the meeting minutes for the last several of these. So, if you've read the meeting minutes, you should be fully on board with what it is we're trying to do. And I talked to Bert. I asked him specifically at the meeting, would this help him with the interpretation that the ZBA would like to have in terms of patios and structures on lakefront properties? And he said absolutely, because it was also with the addition of the needing of a building permit. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Rob to give you more of the technical details if you need, or answer questions. I can answer questions as well. But Rob's group did put it together to make sure that the entire ZO would be aligned if we accepted these changes today, and not have different sections that might say something different or infer something different. So it's a complete review based on Rob's team's work. So.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So we went through as indicated, the whole zoning ordinance and looked at issues of grade and natural grade, and how we define things in our ordinance, because it has created problems over the years as to where our zoning administrator and building official where they measure things from, which around a lake can be quite an issue with people if they alter grade and then raise their property up or raise their decks or patios up. And so we wanted to deal with the grade issue. And, we've never in our ordinance had any definitions of grade, which is a little particular, but something that we felt we should correct ordinance and put in actual provisions that address what grade is. And so if we just look at section 1, we're adding a number of new definitions to our ordinance. Grade, existing grade. So we're going to do measurements, different measurements for different things will be off of existing grade, and then some things off of finished grade. And then we just added a definition of grade. So the existing grade is the grade prior to excavating, filling, grading, or other similar changes or improvements to the land. Some things will naturally be graded if you have a subdivision or a PUD, or I think, similar types of site condominium developments. They're going to go into a whole large area and grade the whole area. So those will be, they'll have an approved grading plan through the township for those types of uses. And then they'd have to stick to that grading plan, but whatever the grading plan is, that would be the natural grade then for their whole development. But in other cases, like just, homes, single-family homes, as they get developed, we're looking at the grade of the properties to determine, what the existing grade is for height and for other, decks and patios and things of that sort. So those definitions are really important to add in there. Then we get into setbacks. We change then some definitions like setbacks and building structure height to just change it. The only thing, it's the same as in our ordinance currently, but we've added existing natural grade to those definitions. So we know when we're measuring it from the natural grade. And then we have a definition of patio, which is a surface consisting of flooring at existing natural grade. So we begin making it clear where you measure the patio from. So if they're raising it up, it's not going to be a patio. And we changed flooring to a surface rather than flooring. A deck, again, is defined here, which is something that's raised above existing natural grade. And I think the only thing changed there was to add existing natural grade, so we know where we're measuring the deck height from. So then we get into, specific issues around the lakes, where people put in decks, they put in patios, they sometimes alter the grade, and we have to work to prevent kind of abuse of altering grade when doing these things. And so, again, these things are going to be, decks and patios are going to be measured off of the existing natural grade. And then for purposes of this section, we added 2 provisions to the waterway setback and height regulations, Section D and Section E. And so D is kind of the special provisions the PC worked on. I gave them some language to work on. They came up with some other things to add to it. And this is what they came up with. For purposes of the section, a patio or deck is not required to meet these setbacks if it meets all the following. So there's normally a minimum 50-foot setback from the lake. This will allow them to have a little leeway to enter into the setback, but only at a certain height. And that height was intended to try to make sure that it's not impeding on view shed or, the neighbor's view. So you could put in a deck or patio beginning with 2 feet it has to be within 2 feet of the principal dwelling, ingress or egress point. So if there's a outdoor back door or whatever, or sliding door, it has to be within 2 feet of that. It can extend no more than 25% into the required setback. So at a minimum, the minimum setback's 50 feet. It can be larger depending on the average of your neighbor's properties, but it would allow you to go into that setback area with your deck or patio. But then it also has to be no higher than 30 inches above existing natural grade. So you can't raise it up and then put it in. It's whatever that existing natural grade is. You can go up to 30 inches into that area and does not require a handrail. So under building code, if it's more than 30 inches high off the ground, then it requires a handrail. So we put that in there, so you don't have railings that are going to be blocking vision either. It's just gonna be a deck or patio if they want to enter into the setback. They can always build it, outside of that 50-foot setback to whatever the height requirements are in the ordinance. The portion of the patio or deck above natural grade shall be landscaped using gradual sloped lawn, or low planting or hardscapes not higher than 1 foot above the patio or deck surface. So it's intended to, have some kind of smooth transition from that, being 30 inches above and smoothing out that transition. And you can go a little bit higher than the patio or deck with that. And so that's the provision for decks and patios that the planning commission worked on. And then we have a requirement, and this came kind of at the request of AGS. And part of the problem is that a lot of these features, people will build a home and they see the plans and they approve the plans for a home. And then later, people add on the other features like their decks and patios, and they may or may not be in compliance with the ordinance, but there was no process for them to come and get a permit to do that. And so we wouldn't find out most of the time until it's constructed or partially constructed and somebody complains and there it is, and, they should know they need to comply with the ordinances, but a lot of times it's just after the fact. They get their plans for their house approved and then they start doing stuff in the setbacks and other areas where it creates problems down the road. So what we're trying to do is any landscaping or hardscaping, including decks, patios, fences, poles, rocks, berms, and other similar materials in the front yard of a waterfront lot, which is the lakeside setback, shall require a zoning permit to determine compliance with the ordinance. So if you're going to do these things, you got to get permission from our zoning administrator to do that, which should help prevent, the problems that we're seeing now with these things being constructed and then not being in compliance. I'll note, we're careful to not include like flowers and trees and, so that's why we put other similar materials, because we're obviously not asking people to pull a zoning permit for, plantings. But, if you have plantings that create a fence, you would have to come in for a permit for that. But otherwise, a tree or flowers or other plantings would not require any kind of permitting, because that issue is raised, and we made sure to say, other similar materials, so our enforcement team knows what requires a zoning permit and what doesn't. And then the other provisions in here are basically just adding in, it's the same, we're not changing anything with the screening and fencing, just other than it's measured from existing natural grade. We changed in some of these other provisions for lighting on a building that's measured, the lighting talks about the mounting height, and we did from average finished grade in that case. And again, for building exterior lighting, finished grade. And then for battery power, for battery storage systems, we have an ordinance in that regard. And again, we didn't change anything other than saying that the height is measured from existing natural grade. So that is the ordinance in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions.
I want to commend the planning commission for moving forward so fast and getting this taken care of, because I think it's time that it happened.
Yeah, you guys did a good job on it.
So we have a motion on the table to accept the ordinance as presented.
Support.
We have a motion and support to accept the new zoning ordinance text amendments as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Just a quick question. Did we have good turnout? Did we have any opposition?
We did. In the meeting minutes for the draft that will be accepted next week, we had two pieces of written correspondence. One just basically asked about the rationale of the effort, and the other one offered a change to make 17.3 a little bit more understanding and less strict, and we did take that into consideration, and we moved it. And then we had Carrie Lynn Eliff. She was at the meeting, and she made public comment where she was not in support. And she, I asked her for her written comments, and I just gave that to Mary Carroll for the book today, but that is part of the meeting minutes on the draft that we have. And that was the only negative feedback, I think, that we had when we went to public hearing. But believe me, there was a lot of conversation to get to that point,
We only had one person that didn't support it, and that was that person. Okay, that's good. So my question, Rob, is when this passes, we've got a couple in the hopper that are in compliance effort right now. Do those properties fall within this new, how are we, I know when it's done, and their grandfather, but those properties are not done. What happens now if this is approved tonight?
So those properties would fall into these provisions here.
Okay,
And I don't think they, I don't believe that they change any. I mean, actually, it's kind of a loosening of a standard that allows them to enter into the setback, with these slight limitations. So it's actually, I think, it's an improvement because we give the definitions of what we're actually looking at. We require the permits. But in terms of, some of the enforcement, if it's, once they start to construct something, they get lawful non-conforming rights. So if they've already started something, they can fall under the old provisions, or, they can meet the new ones. So, in all those cases, because they've started and actually, are in construction or constructed, they get lawful non-conforming rights with whatever the ordinance was previously.
okay.
Are you specifically talking about the two that are coming in front of the ZBA in August?
No,
No?
the
Okay.
one that was built last summer.
Yeah, there's some other enforcement matters, but
Got it. Okay.
I don't know particularly that whether it will or won't affect those. But, to the extent they're constructed, they're going to be lawful non-conforming to, the prior ordinance. And if they can meet, and if they fall under this, then fine, they can fall under this ordinance too.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Comment? Okay. We have a motion and support to accept the zoning ordinance text amendments. Clerk may proceed with the roll call.
Supervisor Hutchings.
Aye.
Clerk Stage, aye. Treasurer Wiersma.
Aye.
Trustee Langshaw. Trustee Beeks.
Aye.
Trustee Harmon.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Michael Beeks, would you like to take over the draft ambulance services agreement?
Sure, I can do that. We feel, well, first of all, Christine and I have had the opportunity to talk with Brian and Lori with Life Care. We feel we have been 100% transparent with our fire command, with you as board members, because what we shared was our original draft document. We shared how we negotiated, and we shared also how we took all the feedback that we've gotten from both times that we published into consideration. And I feel that on this last one that came in, the only change we did was we were going to take away the aspirin reporting. And Brian actually mentioned that when he was talking, that they don't measure that anymore. It's more of the hookups and whatnot. So our timeline, which we identified in our email, was that Rob, we were hoping that by Thursday of this week, he can put those changes into the contract for Christine and I for a final review. And then we would get that to Brian and Lori, hopefully by Thursday afternoon. Do you think you can be on time with that, Rob? Okay. And then if we get that to them and they come back early that following week, we would be able to schedule a special board meeting to come in, look at the final draft together, see if there's any questions. But what we need from them by that following Thursday is their agreement to that without further, what do you want to call it, negotiation. We feel that we've been so upfront with everything, and we've gotten into, all the feedback we've gotten, we basically did some really nice things with. So anyways, so that's the schedule. And so Rob, by Thursday, we would get it to Life Care by the following Thursday morning, I'm hoping, because then we would have time to schedule the meeting that following Tuesday on Thursday while the office is still open, and then be very compliant with the scheduling. So, but in the meantime, during that journey, as you know, we're seeing some really nice things between both our fire command, first responders, Life Care, how we're going to utilize the building, all those kind of things. So I would personally look forward to that next year of seeing how we do together, and if it maintains, we have some big decisions to make then. So that's the update.
Thank you. You did a good job. It has been a pleasure of mine to get closer to Life Care Ambulance, be able to chat with you offline and be able to sit at the negotiation table and be able to find out what your priorities are as an organization. You know, you're not just here, you are here and you're showing up and you are invested in Ross Township, and that is very apparent in all the discussions that we've had. And I never would have had that opportunity had we not decided to be on this journey together. So it's nothing but a positive from my perspective that we're here together. And I really thank you. And I am grateful for the partnership and grateful for our meeting and the transparency and the good discussion that we've had. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So that's our update for the ambulance. That's laid out quite well. Thank you, Trustee Beeks. Intergovernmental fire agreement. Rob, would you like to address that?
Just, my intent was to get them an updated, or the last version with an explanation of all the changes. That didn't happen. I ended up with a very large, complex litigation for one of my townships that I had to attend to. So my intent is to try to make sure that I get that to them for their next board meeting, their August board meeting, and then we can just move forward from there. Once they have it, I assume they will discuss what those changes were, and then the intent was to schedule a joint meeting to go over the contract then.
Did they get a copy of this then yet? This is the one that we have in our pack. It's
The one that you sent out?
it's to. Ro-
Yeah,
it's
Rob
to-
sent it out February of
To Thomas.
2025.
This is an older version.
Yeah,
They
they
don't have
would've-
anything newer than this then.
Right.
I got it.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
get them anything between our last meeting and this meeting.
I just saw 2025 and I got
Okay,
excited.
so
I guess.
the approach would be, we'll go from that document, you'll highlight what I use the term sticking points, or what the changes are, and then they can discuss it, and then we'll have a joint meeting that it'll be an open public meeting. The intent is that we'll have a quorum there. And it can be a separate time, or it could be I think we decided separate might be better, because we
It could be
ran
a
over
very
the
long meeting.
one time. And with the belief that we can walk through and essentially negotiate, on it. And then if we come to agreement, then we'd be there to vote. If not, we'd gotta schedule another one, figure out.
Yeah, when I sent it over originally to the village president, I gave him an explanation of the changes, but I don't know if that was shared with other village council members or not, but it was more of a general explanation of why we made those changes. This will be a more line item of why each item was revised.
I think it's a good approach. I mean, I think in between assuming it'd be great if we came to agreement on the first meeting, but if we didn't, then at our next board meeting, then we could have on the topic to discuss, where we at as far as differences, because part of negotiation is everybody's got to give a little bit and come together, and hopefully we can end up with a product that we're all happy with.
Were you planning on talking with their attorney?
At this point, no. I was just going to do the review for their village council, and then we'll go from there. If they want their attorney to come to the joint meeting, that would be,
I really think it would be a good idea.
yeah, I think, I'm at the joint meeting. Their attorney should also be there to it. He can address any legalities from their side of things.
I think to the extent that we're moving forward, I think it makes good sense because we are the ones in Ross Township that manage or, oversee the rollout of the millage. I think it was good to have you at the table, but when we begin to part ways and we begin to have significant differences, and I really think that their attorney needs to be at the table. And not because I don't want to share you or because you're not doing a good job, but I just don't want there to be bad feelings on their end that you are trying to steer an outcome. So I think I agree with trustee Langshaw. I really would like to have the village's attorney part of this process.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, to have a good valid agreement, you know, it should have legal counsel on one side and legal counsel.
Correct. Correct.
But at the end of the day, and maybe that's a conversation you have with John Thomas, but they get to make that call.
Right,
Not.
right.
And the one thing I would ask for too is that we don't have a different set of documents to work off than them. So whatever we go into that meeting with, it should be exactly what we have given them to work with.
Yeah, whatever I provide them, I'm gonna just share it to everyone.
Right, and then that
So
would be
everybody
our
will get it
starting
all
point.
at the same time, nobody gets it first or anything like that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, so Rob sent it out in February, and what Rob does is he sends it to John and I, and then John and I disperse it to our boards. And therein lies the disagreement. So there's a thought that they want to go back to fourth quarter of 2024 and pick up from there and renegotiate, where we had brought our consensus together and then displayed what Rob had sent out in February. So you're going to start with the February document.
Right, I'm gonna give them the explanation where we're at and why we're there. And then, you know, then we meet together and try to hash through it.
I think the only, what could be a pushback on their part is because there was some, at our last board meeting, we had conversations that we would go back to that one, but it's a really good point. You know, from that one, we had come up with some changes, had communicated with that, so we would like to start with that one. And from that point, we can negotiate back or forward.
Right, but there's really good reasons for the final agreement that we
Right.
sent over to them. I mean, things that we really can't backtrack on, some of those
But
things.
I would
for
just
sure.
address that it's different than what we talked about the last one, and here's why it's different, because
That's what I'll explain
Yeah.
to them.
That's how I understood it in the last meeting, that you were gonna go to the one that you sent to us in February and explain the differences from the October one and why those are there. So, okay.
all right, sounds good.
We're all on the same page, I think. Any questions or concerns? Okay. Thank you for that. Moving forward into new business. It's that time of the year again, quarterly budget review. You want to trade seats?
No, I don't think so. We've got, Amanda was kind enough to print out copies. There's only a few changes, so our goal this year is every quarter, assuming that we don't need to adjust it based on other business that's before us, that we will walk through it. So on the cover page, this is the summary that it's rolled up at each of the areas. So you got township board, supervisor. In subsequent pages, you got the individual detail. So if you look so it's got the categories, then it's got current and proposed. So where you see the 25-26 budget proposed, and there's just a few that need to be adjusted. And one was a new account that was added in for fire board. And that, we didn't have a budget, so taking the year-to-date and just extrapolating it, we're proposing 2,500. And then if you look at the cemetery, planning commission, and zoning board, really that ended up being some categories that got pushed out that had been consolidated and then pushed out. So it's just minor changes going up. Just and the planning commissions was a little bit bigger because of the number of meetings that they have. So you see those differences. If you want to flip into them, you would go into the subsequent pages, and that will get going forward with page numbers on them. But you get to the second to the last page, there's a property and liability insurance, the salary for the PC recorder, which is taking Mary, that's doing the minutes and stuff?
Yes.
On that.
Yeah.
And then same thing in the ZBA, so it's a bigger chunk when you look at the planning commission, because they meet monthly versus the other ones. And then if you flip to the second page, that's our revenue, and so there's the second account, the MSU one, that's a one-time, and so that number came in, and so we just rounded that up. Same thing with, you come down about the middle of the page, that's highlighted State of Michigan Metro Authority. Is that, Amanda, is that also one time?
Correct.
So that covers that. At the end of the day, we could bring them in exactly in line. And then there's one that we didn't use last year, but the maps, labels, addresses, voter list. So that didn't have a budget, so we put one. You wouldn't expect a whole lot on the first quarter review. But that's what it is. Are there any questions we can answer?
Nice, thank you.
What a difference over the years. Do we need a motion to accept these changes?
Yes. Resolution to
Resolution?
amend the budget.
Do you want to make that resolution?
Yeah, I resolve we amend the budget as outlined in this report.
I'll support. Sorry. You're all right.
Supervisor Hutchings.
Aye.
Clerk Stage, aye. Treasurer Wiersma.
Aye.
Trustee Beeks.
Aye.
Trustee Harmon.
Aye.
Trustee Langshaw.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. It is 7:28 PM. We've now arrived at the second citizen comment. I'm not going to time you.
So, I had a burn complaint tonight. Bert had been there from AGS, told him he had to get the property cleaned up. Well, his idea of cleaning the property up was to burn everything that was there, which was,
What road was this?
it was on Willow Beach.
Okay.
So, I don't know if Bert told him that he had to do something else, just other than getting rid of it. So, well, otherwise he was gonna get fined. So, I think we need to make sure that if Bert does go out to do that, that he has a list, hand them so they know what they're supposed to do with it.
He does.
Okay, well, I don't know if the person got it, he just said that Bert told him he had to get rid of it, otherwise he was gonna get fined. So, the guy burned a big pile. We pulled some of the stuff off.
Did he get a burn permit?
I don't think he did, and that's another thing too is, there's a lot of people that don't know what can be burned and what can't be burnt. What he was burning was not supposed to be burned. So I think that that's kind of one of those things that, like, when we do hand out building permits, for one thing, like, most of the houses around are close enough that the contractors get dumpsters, but you go out in some of the remote areas, they just burn everything, the trash, the scrap lumber. That's against our ordinance and the state ordinance. So I think, but it's one of those that, I mean, it saves the contractor probably a couple $1,000, $5,000. It's money in their pocket rather than having to pay for a dumpster all the time. So I think that that's one thing maybe that needs to be set up when we do building permits or whatever, that a dumpster is like required to be on site. And then another thing is like sending out the ordinance for the burning ordinance, whether we do that like at tax time or a couple times a year, just to remind people what can be. I mean, because most people don't realize that a 2x4 can't be burnt. It's from a tree. They think, well, if they can burn brush, they can burn that. Well, by the ordinance, it can't. So I mean, it's one of those. It's kind of conflicting in some of the stuff there that people don't realize. So it would help my going to burn complaint.
So when individuals call, we have our burning ordinance on our website, and I believe I did send out a burning ordinance, I don't know what newsletter, but when individuals call in to get a burn permit, we tell them what they can and can't burn. We're very clear. And we,
Right, but I mean, like, obviously, he didn't get a burn permit today. He was just told that he had to get rid of it by a certain period of time, so, okay, well, this is the easiest way to get rid of it, and so he burned it. I mean, which, so I don't know, I know Bert told him that, I don't know. I mean, that I don't know, but that would be something that, just to make sure that if Bert does go,
so offline, I'm gonna ask you the last name of that resident, and then I'll figure it out. But don't do it right now.
offline.
Thank you. Offline. Don't do it right now.
I just want to be clear, you said we have a complaint on Bert, but now you're saying you have no idea what he said. So the question you have is basically how do we get information out to our citizens on what
Right,
can
just,
burn
I
and
mean,
what
because
can't?
there's tons of people that, I mean,
Right.
like when they burn a pile of leaves, I mean, the pile of leaves can be, I mean, the whole roadside.
I understand, it's just that Bert was involved because he told him he had to clean it up.
Yeah,
and the
somebody else, must be
resident
somebody else
chose
had been
to
there,
burn
so
it.
that's, because
Okay.
the
So,
other neighbor,
right.
the other neighbors were there and said, well, boy, I guess you're getting all kinds of crap today from, so.
So I can tell you, when we engage AGS to send a letter on noxious weeds and blight, which it sounds like, and I should know the name of the individual, and I will tell you if they have it or not, but you're not gonna say it while we're live. Bert attaches that information in the letter. So there's no mistaking when someone is told, you've got 4 cars that are not plated in a pile of tires, and by the way, you can't burn them.
Well, I would-
it
I
is
mean, I would
well
hope that that is, but,
communicated
okay.
in an ordinance enforcement letter. So when Bert sends out ordinance enforcement letters saying, your property, we've received complaints from your neighbors, your property needs mowing, you gotta take care of the dead tree, whatever it might be, Bert does send the ordinance to support why he is reaching out. So when I get the last name of that individual, I can,
No, and
I
that's
can
why,
find out.
but it is one of those, that there's a lot of people that don't realize, I mean, and there's a lot of people that don't get burn permits because they think that it's in their backyard.
Right,
I
and
mean,
they can
it's in the
burn it,
middle of a
right.
field, whatever, I mean, but they don't have the slightest idea what the ordinance says. I mean, because they don't look at it. I mean, I don't know if I think a couple times that I've looked at the website, if I can get to it, so, with my computer skills.
You don't type, you told
With my
me.
computer skills,
That's
right.
right, you
So-
don't type.
So, at any rate, that's,
No, I appreciate that, and that gives me an opportunity to follow up, and please don't leave until I get the last name of that person. Thank you. Any other thoughts on that? Rob, do you have any, you see Bert's letters. When he sends out his letters that says you need to clean up your property because we are citing you under this ordinance, he also is pretty, I don't want to say he likes to talk a lot, but his letters are kind of long. There's no nice way to say it, but, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you specifically if it says something about that or not, but yeah, he's normally very complete in his letters that he sends out.
When he goes on, if he's mailed a letter, now he's going on site to say you got to do something. Is he taking a copy of that letter and handing it to him, what was mailed?
I don't know.
That'd be something to ask, because then you could say, one, we have a copy on a file or electronic, and not only was it mailed to you, but it was handed to you, and by the way, it had that stuff. So
Yep, it's worth looking into, and it's always good communication to make sure people understand.
We have a PC meeting a week from next Monday, so it's like the 28th. I can bring it up with Bert just on the side and ask him what he does. Are you gonna do it tomorrow? Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Citizen comment, right?
Correct.
Got it.
You're coming under trustee updates. Anybody else? No. I'm closing citizen comment at 7:35 p.m. Citizen and fire chief comments at 7:35 p.m. Moving into trustee updates. Trustee Beeks?
I have one. You probably noted in the last few PC meetings that the committee has been a little concerned on the cost for people to come in front of us for a review. A number of years ago, it was $600, and now it is currently, I think it's a little bit north of $1,300 to come in front. So one of the thoughts that we had back in the day when we increased the staffing on the ZBA from 3 to 5, to make it easier to get quorums and, talk to somebody about issues, et cetera. There's a number of things. We have done that now. And I guess what I'm looking for is just kind of what is the board's appetite to consider taking the planning commission from 7 members down to 5. I mean, legally, we only need the 5. We needed to get to 5 when we got to 4,000 residents, on the ZBA. So that was something that was a little bit more, we needed to act on that. But reducing the planning commission from 7 to 5, that would be, at a minimum, another $230 or $240 less that we would have to charge our citizens to come for a review. I can share that the votes have been fairly all unanimous. There may have been a 1 or 2 votes in the last, several months where we had not full agreement, which means to me that, if we had a lot of 4 to 3 votes, that might be critical, right? I mean, it depends on how people would think. But as the votes come in, then you have, again, the savings on that. Because we do have what we call staggered terms now. We set that up last year so that every year we have 2 members of the PC that, they would be re-upped or not. That would be at Christina's discretion. So it would be it could end up being, if we did it by the end of the year, it could just be a natural process because we have, people that are going to be ending their term. So instead of renew, we would just go to the 5. So to me, it's not a debate, but it's a question on the board's appetite to move in that direction, in terms of saving dollars for the citizens that.
So are most of these reviews happening during the regular meetings? You're not having to hold special meetings for them, right?
No, that's correct. Regular meetings.
So a regular, and it's typically 1, maybe 2 you squeeze in a night, depending on the.
We have had as many as 3, I believe, 3, maybe even 4. But you recall, Rob? I think our max was 4, but I think.
Normally it's 1 or 2.
I mean, it seemed when we came up with the 1,300, it was trying to cover the costs that it would take to get there. But if we're doing them during a regular meeting, 1,300 would seem like we're too high. I kind of like the 7-person thing. Gets a lot of diversity of not just the vote. I think it's good that you've worked through and it's nearly unanimous, but it's that input and that diversity of input to get to the final product. But it does sound like at 1,300 we're too high because at a 7-member board, you're, what are you at? Just over 1,000, and you'd be paying that anyhow. So, the output for the meeting as it is, and so I don't know. I think it sounds like it's too high.
So
we need to maybe evaluate lowering the cost down.
So it's my understanding, it's my understanding that we're the only ones that are supposed to be a board of 7 because we're elected. That everybody else, unless you're a charter township, is supposed to be 5. Is that the wrong understanding or is that true?
No, for planning commissions, they vary, at minimum 5, most, 5, 7, or some are even at 9 people.
But are those charter townships that are at the 7? Are we
No,
are
it
we
doesn't
where
matter.
we should be for?
It doesn't make any distinction in the Planning Act, makes no distinction between.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Charter township or general law township. It's just, it's up to the board as to the number they want to set, minimum of 5. And so, you have certain costs that are associated with the hearings themselves. So whenever you have a applicant in a hearing, it's got to be published notice, so you have the cost of the publication. And then you have the cost of mailing, preparation of the notices. So there's certain costs that do occur because of that. The planning commission only has to meet 4 times a year. So a planning commission has to meet at a minimum 4 times a year. You meet every month by choice, but you normally have stuff to deal with at all of your meetings. If a lot of townships that don't have as much activity, they might meet, as they need to and might meet a minimum of 4 times. but you have a lot of activity. That's why you have to basically have meetings every month.
Yeah, and the cost for a PC meeting would be, if it was fully attended, you have 7 members at, I think it was like $115 each. You have attorney, which is, I don't know, what's your current rate? A couple $100 an hour anyways, right? And plus travel time. Last year, or 2 years ago, we stopped using the planner because that was adding almost $700.
Well, Bert's there too.
Yeah,
And Nick is there.
Right. No,
And
you still
so
have AGS, but
you
I'm
still have
saying
AGS.
we reduced it, but the way we're doing our accounting now, which is like pristine, we know the cost. And then, so therefore, we're just covering the cost, and the costs are just so high. And so that's just one opportunity. Now, we've had PC meetings that we didn't have an issue, and Rob didn't attend. So it was just the PC. So that was just, but nobody's covering that cost, right? That's a township.
But if all you do is take two PC members off, the cost differential is minimal, because all the other costs to get that applicant there are still there. So it's not, if that 1,300 is where it needs to be to cover the costs, then 2 less planning commission aren't gonna help make a difference. Then you
Well, it
run,
would,
then you run
because
the
you're
risk
talking
that
15 to 20%, because that would be $230 less you would have. Plus,
But it's not that percentage when you throw all the other costs in. It is just at the,
but if 1,300 covers it and you can take 230 off, that's pretty significant, because then the cost, I mean, just without anything else changing, would drop it down to under, $1,050. And again, I just share it. It's more, I mean, there's a lot of people that have gone on record that says, oh, most of them are from the lake and they can afford it. Well, that's not really how we should look at it either, right? So, and again, I'm just asking the board for the appetite. If you have no appetite, you want to stay at 7, we could look at other ways. Another way might be we don't meet every month. Maybe we meet every 6 weeks or something. But then it's going to be jammed, because like I say, we got 2 issues coming up just in front of the ZBA in August, but realized that we had nothing prior to that, and we canceled the last 2 ZBA meetings.
I like the 7 because one, historically, we've been at that for a really long time. I think it gives you the diversity of thought. You suddenly have somebody who can't make one, and now you're down to, you're down to 4. So I like the 7. I'd like to see us just do a double check on the revenue we're bringing in versus the cost, because you have to meet anyhow. You may not have to meet every meeting, but we're talking specifically the planning commission, not coming before the ZBA, right?
Yeah, the ZBA is set. We went to the 5 because we needed to go to.
So,
And the ZBA only meets when there
They need it,
are
right.
applications in front.
Right.
We can review the cost, that's not a problem. And, I think maybe too, if there's multiple people coming in at one time, you can do a ladder type system with your fees, instead of charging everybody the same amount, even though there's gonna be 3 people here in your meeting anyways. And if we have already budgeted for the PC to meet 12 months of the year, that's already in our budget, so we can look at moving some of that around. But I too agree with Lynn. I think we've always been at 7 historically. I like the input of everybody that's on the board, especially when I was on that board. It was nice to have a diverse conversation with many different viewpoints. And I think that we should stay with the 7 and revisit our costs.
Thank you for that. Trustee updates?
The only thing I have, if my regular work schedule stays the same, I've got a meeting I'm supposed to be at headquarters in August, so it would conflict. So unless I can talk my way out of it, I won't be here in August.
For the August 19th board meeting. Thank you for that update. Any other trustee updates? All right. There being no further updates, I'd be seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, support. Motion and support to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.